You didn't want to be up there. No. Certainly not. Not as a child, not even as a young lad, not as an aspiring man. However, not even in the advanced state of maturity of his future existence. He would probably stand in the way of the ladder for the rest of his life. One would probably rather fall into the silent hope that everything would be over by then. In spirit, above all. Possibly, even forgotten. Could one forget something like that? That was the question. Under lock and key. No, simply no. You basically can't forget anything. That's what they say, that's where you're lurking. The figures that you don't mind, that you would like to escape from, at least apparently. Lock them away, lock them out. Monsters like in the interim stories, of which there were all too many. In every era, in every time, only colors and shapes and even names, as you wish, change constantly, like the appearance of day and night. But what if you know that there were real monsters? What if you know that this word only stands for something whose name, or meaning, or origin, or intentions, whose actions resulted, is evil? Whoever does evil, and that was the case, evil existed, but its definition, you wouldn't know yourself, so you wouldn't see the monster in the room, even if you wanted to. Much more likely, you might not want to, because this word stands for something that simply scares you. This word, applicable to everything, its ignorance of oneself, one would look into the deep pits of one's mirror image, despite all the disgrace and honesty with oneself, to experience a part that one would not be comfortable with. Monster. Not too long ago, it must have been days, it could have been weeks, maybe, my thoughts are wandering. Sorry. My vision is clouded. The glasses weigh heavy. My ears are ringing again today. Or, was it months? How time flies, which one was only too happy to feel subjected to self-flagellation. It was definitely months. That's when I had to strike for the first time. When I hit it, the blow was there. It must have been powerful, hard, and just as painful. In any case, my striking hand, the clenched fist, screamed in pain. That, monsters too. A deep furrow remained on the head, and tomorrow it would definitely turn dark blue. It should be. Monster. It had been like this for a long time. The eternal back and forth. A game between players. Hysteria and madness go hand in hand. Father also struck. It should be. It was the old shovel, the blade of which dug deep notches. It was getting worse and worse. Are we the good guys? Again and again. Yes, also on the floor. Then we joined. It should be. I can still see the knife in front of me, as if it had just happened. When your eyes opened and I don't know what was standing in front of you anymore. Like rooted to the spot. Didn't move at all. Just looked. It has been going on for far too long and would continue to look for far too much longer. Not one eye closed anymore. It must have been hours again. The following night it happened again. Sleepless nights can be lonely, but they certainly don't keep you lonely. Even the knife in his left hand probably knew that all too well. For hours, like a stake, on the bed, staring shamelessly at me. First Fred was dead. His paws were no longer there. They were probably chopped off. The knife was bloody in the knife block. His face mutilated. Standing on all fours, or so it seemed. His lifeless body was supported by a handful of lines that were stretched into a dense net that had enough scope in the room to give the impression that it was supporting the entire house as the central point of our lives. We had Fred from a young age. His brown fur shimmered in the cold light, full of sadness, so powerful, as if Fred were alive and still allowed to indulge in his raison d'être. If you stared at it for too long in the moment of silence, you could have, by God help me, if God was my witness, you could have sworn that Fred was still blinking when the last tear dried up and finally at the end of all days a lot falls to the ground. The carpet would hold everything. Every single incident. Without any effort, grumbling or complaining. First then, there were the look of my thoughts on those days allowed the fruit of all fruits to flourish. It would seem good if this place would one day bear new fruits of innocence. That's how it started, as a small, insignificant fruit, a seed that was lovingly planted. Small and modest, the circles ripple as they continually grow larger. We have to do it. The power lies in humility. We had to do it. And we did it. You can't hear anything up there anymore. It was so loud for a long time that you now seem to miss it. Up there. So listen. If you dare to take a look, consider taking the risk. Monsters only exist in dreams. Monsters also exist in that moment of completely overwhelming fear, which always resembled a dream. For monsters are defined by a series of causal entanglements in the physical manifest of our perceptions of the psyche of the individual or the masses, whose actions we are only too happy to bring into being if we do not know how to handle the ropes. That's how it is, and that's how it becomes, only too real. When the things that belonged to you disappeared, you got angry. But often, a shrug of the shoulders was enough. You think about it. You get used to everything. Yes, you can also replace what needed to be replaced. If you really needed it, you got it again. But what do you really need if you're always afraid of losing it again? A meaningful distraction would probably help the painful miss. Well, what if a part disappears that you can't easily replace? The brightest room in the house now resembled an abomination. There was no screaming today. The smile too. Who is looking out of the world again today? That's how vivid his previous well-being was. The camera, much to the ground at the moment of bizarre surprise, lit up the room. The photo album would never see this picture. It had to be that way. There. The castle in front of it was as heavy as 1,000 stones. That's how it worked. We stored some of our supplies up here. For times of need. Provision is made by those who decide wisely and who take precautions. Only fools believe in reversing the trouble while it has already happened. The supply was spread over a large area here. In shards, large and small, shattered to the ground. Filled the floorboards with leaking juice, the herb and all the colorful fruits mixed with its corrupted blood. Apparently it didn't appeal. Must have become considerably picky. Things had definitely gotten bad. Flies and stench exposed themselves, good disposition for evil. The monster had probably found a taste for itself. It had tried to break through the reinforced door to the attic for a long time and often enough, but the iron fittings did what they were ultimately supposed to do. It was dangerous, but not unusual. When we built the house, I had to get involved early on. Also on the roof. It took me long enough to attach the heavy tiles. It was skill that carried a person smoothly through the dangerous world, like a bird whose inspiring lightness would always amaze you. The window had to be closed quickly and before the time had come. Candlelight and adjust yourself. The old song. At night it remained dark up there. During the day, the sun had a hard time. When you are hungry, you find a taste for anything that strengthens your strength. Hunger wasn't an uncommon good, not where I came from. Therefore, if there is a chance that the harvest will be well sown, then prepare yourself, because the storm weighs heavily on the trees. There it lay now, there it lay, you now, oh mother. We gave her the saw. You could have done anything with it, the door. Oh yes, the attempt took place. It was the day when father screamed out loud. Son, get the iron fittings, quickly and especially urgently. Don't forget your hammer and nail. Now hurry up. I rushed ahead as if in a flash. When she, or that, monster, no, I don't want to, it was and still was mother, digging its way through the wood, having found loose, light struts, digging deep tracks, its bony, twisted claws tearing out everything whose remaining powers could be ripped out at will or whatever. We gave it to her. Probably a sign of our appreciation. Thanks to the confusion, conditions that were far too fast, or at least cold-hearted calculation. It happened through a crack. Then we closed it. Should she come get us one day, or should she start with herself? So. She started. That must have been the reason when it finally became quiet. So quiet. So quiet. Eerily quiet. Up there. When it dripped from above. By candlelight and imagine. To my left was one of her legs, of which there wasn't much left. The other thing also lay over there, and part of it, right there in the niche, over there, where there was still room for all the goods that needed to be kept safe. She didn't seem to like it much anymore. Anyone who can see can also see inside. That's what they say. She no longer needed her eyes. I preferred to enjoy these in hasty gulps. Let them get stuck in your throat. And so they stayed. From the nose down, from the chest up, cut off what makes room and discard it because you no longer need it. Up there, I'm still afraid today, in both small and large ways, the old and the new. I wish we could leave here. The stench is still deep in the nostrils, but what would actually happen if everyone did that?